Welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Today I'm pleased to announce that it's a Flimsy. We're finished with the top of this double wedding ring quilt. Just in the last few days I have finished the mitered corners for all of the borders and they turned out great. I also did a rough size check of this top on a queen size bed, and I'm happy to report that we do not need any more borders. I was going to put a white border on this just to make sure that it was big enough, but that's not going to be necessary, and I think if we did, it might begin to get a little too big. So we're good with that and we're ready to move on. I'm very pleased with the way this turned out. Once we got the borders added, and you can see the drop diamonds. At one time I had talked about putting a diamond here. There's always time to do that. It would only be 4 little diamonds in the whole quilt, and we certainly could add that without any problem and really very quickly. But for now, it's time to let this rest. The next step in this process is going to be to sandwich this quilt and prepare to do the actual quilting on it. Since this has been a handmade project with the exception of the borders, I am going to move forward with hand quilting this. So I need to decide how I'm going to do that, what patterns I'm going to use for the quilting itself, and then how I'm going to hold this quilt while I do it. I have several options. I can either put it on a floor frame, and I usually, if I use a floor frame, I'm using a Grace 3, which is a frame that you can put your quilt, your backing, and your batting on without doing any basting or pinning. And there are lots of advantages to that. This quilt will fit on that full size, so that will not be an issue. The only thing that I don't particularly like is I think on the Grace frame, typically you're better off doing horizontal lines or sometimes maybe even vertical lines, but rounded arches and ovals and ellipses are a little more difficult to do on that, simply because of the fact that you've got an area maybe about 18 inches that you're working on at a time, and it's all across the quilt. The other option would be putting this in a hand or lap hoop, and usually I use both, and that might work out well because I think you can get a whole ring or almost all of a ring, maybe the center and one side, in the hoop at one time. So those are decisions I need to make. I also need to decide what the pattern is going to be for inside this. And some time ago I purchased this template, and that's what I'm going to use. It's really hard to see here in this frosted plastic, so I made a little rough, very rough drawing of what the design is going to be, and that's going to sit right in there in that opening in the middle of the ring. And there's also a little oval piece here. I think this may have been designed specifically for a wedding ring quilt because that is almost an exact match to that size of that little ellipse there. And as you can see, this one was on clearance in a bin somewhere at one point. Then as to the borders, I've got a couple of choices here in the templates that I already have. I was thinking about using this one, which is just a series of ovals and little diamond shaped, which would be really good for this, but it's too wide to put on the pink. I don't think it would look good to put it over the pink and the purple, so I've got to do some thinking on that. So that's where we are, and because I have several projects going on at the same time, we're going to put this aside for a couple of videos while I prepare my supplies that I'm going to need for this and get a good thought process on how it's going to be done what process I'm going to use, and then at that point I will come back and share that with you. If you're sewing along with us, I know that sometimes the way the videos are produced, I may be ahead of you, and you may have started this when the video started and you have much more work to do. Please remember that these videos can be viewed at any time. So if you need more time to finish up your project to get to this point, don't feel bad about that, because we all work at our own time. And for me, I get a couple of hours throughout the week to work on it, and then probably another couple of hours on the weekend when I'm not in here videotaping to work on them as well. So no worries, work at your own speed, and we will be back with this project shortly and move forward with it. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please be sure to like us and subscribe to our channel so we're able to bring you more videos in the future. Thank you. We'll see you next time.